What would you do if you went on a seemingly innocent trip to the river, was kidnapped by a mermaid, and then brought back 40 years later? Once upon a time, not long ago, when I say not long ago, I mean in 2020, an 8-year-old girl was returned to her village in Zimbabwe after being missing for 40 years. And she was the same age as she was when she went missing. This happened in Winezi, Zimbabwe. An 8-year-old girl, 40 some odd years ago, went to a river to go fishing with her family. As they were about to leave, the girl caught a small fish, and fishes, they're flipping and flopping when you take them out of water. So she dropped the fish. And she went back to the river as everyone was packing up to clean the dirt off of the fish. And she just disappeared into thin air. After a thorough search of the area, police assumed that a crocodile got her. But family wasn't so convinced of that. Family brought in several different traditional healers, and several different healers all told them the same thing and started to give them directions on what to do every year, multiple times out of the year, to bring their baby girl back safely. 40 years they did traditional rituals to appease the mermaids. After years and years and years going through traditional healers and traditional rituals to appease spirit and try to bring the girl back, they finally found the right person to do the job. The little girl walked home. She walked straight into her village and straight to her family.
Wait a minute. I heard that when you are basically kidnapped by these mermaids and you spend time with them and you return, you come back with certain powers. And she was gone for 40 years. Welcome back to another video. As you can see, today we're going over water spirits in response to all of the floodings that is happening right now. We're going to get a little educated. Today these videos are going to be featuring Noah, because y'all know she is a good storyteller when it comes down to the water spirits. Well, just any story, for real. Let's just get straight into the video, because you know how I feel about intros. Okay, y'all, I just wanted to get a little bit more of the story because I am invested.
In the same year that the little girl was rescued, in the same community, 2 men were recovered after being missing for 46 years. Is that a pattern I see? And the healer that rescued them spoke to the media and said not only does she do traditional healing and bringing back people from the mermaids, she also can cure cancer, different ailments. This lady is supposed to be the bee's knees, and I'm wondering, because it's not talked about in the article, that this is the same traditional healer that brought the little girl back. Her name is Daddy Rai. I know I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. But she claims that these 2 men came to her as full body apparitions, just as the little girl did with her traditional healers, and was trying to contact her so that they could be rescued from the mermaids. Now, it needs to be said that this was over a year later after the little girl was rescued.
Enough said. Go watch her video.
Y'all ever hear of the plantation that is said to be haunted by a headless slave master, his slaves, and is said to be a portal? Get your popcorn. On today's episode of This Is What Happens When You Fuck Around and Find Out, we have Lake Jackson, Texas. The story begins in 1840 whenever Abner Jackson purchased this land and built a sugar plantation on it. Like every other slave owner at this time, Abner Jackson was cruel to his slaves. Buck breaking, lynching, raping, mental and physical abuse, making them work sun up to sundown in the muggy heat with only a little bit of food. It was horrible. But the suffering for Abner started before he even croaked. The plantation flourished for some time, but the Civil War drove the once very, very wealthy Abner into severe debt. And it was said that the reason why his plantation didn't see its fullest potential was because our enslaved ancestors were practicing ATR still, ensuring that this place would never see its full potential. Once Abner passed away, the property was passed on to his eldest son, John. Though John did a little bit better than his father, the business still was pretty much in the shitter. But he had bigger issues to deal with, and that bigger issue was his baby brother, George. He was sickly and was horrible with finances. He stepped to John and wanted his share of the plantation. John was not having it. John dragged George in front of the whole town and buggy whipped him. Buggy whipping basically is those long-ended sticks that they hit the horses behind with back then. Yeah, he pretty much spanked him like a child or a slave in front of everyone. And George was not going to let John play him like that. So in retaliation on this property, George shot John 6 times and then cut his head off with a machete. They buried the body without the head. It is rumored that George threw the head into the lake. Surprisingly, George didn't even go to jail because everyone really disliked John. They said he was money hungry, he was power hungry, and he just wasn't a good person. All in all, George got his wish and got to take over the plantation, but he only stayed for a few nights. He reported that he was lying in bed and a large bird was trying to tear him apart. So the last that they seen of him was him screaming and fleeing from this property. He died 4 years later of tuberculosis, although it was rumored because of his guilty conscience or his nerves. Soon after, they leased this plantation to the state to house convicts. The convicts were to replace slave labor, and they treated them just as bad as slaves. The convicts spreaded diseases throughout this plantation, killing themselves and the enslaved workers there. And then finally, in 1900, the plantation was destroyed by a hurricane, and this is where the spiritual reparations commenced.
A hurricane, y'all. A hurricane.
Ghost number 1, John Jackson. It is said whenever George decapitated and shot John, it was at the banks of the river. There is a patch of land right on the bank of the river that will not grow grass, no matter what anybody does. And the dirt is stained red. And the story goes that if you die there, you get stuck there. It reminds me of American Horror Story, the first season. People see a full apparition of John with and without his head. They hear disembodied voices. And even though there is no plantation there or house for that matter, they hear footsteps. Also, what I forgot to mention is that there's a silent debate if George decapitated John on the porch of the plantation or by the riverbank. They know he shot him by the riverbank, but it's back and forth of what actually happened. But people report hearing a large or heavy object rolling down a set of stairs that are no longer there. It's supposed to be his head. Also, people report hearing a man yell out, calling for his head. Lake Jackson is now a town and people actually built homes and live there, right? Well, people come home to all their furniture rearranged. One family reported that their little girl has seen a woman, a black woman, looking at her in her bedroom window. Except her bedroom was on the 2nd floor and there's no way anybody could have climbed up there. Enslaved folks are the most reported people that haunt this place. It's overwhelming how many enslaved people's souls are still here or are still restless. They're mostly spotted in the woods doing tasks that they would have been doing back then, like hacking at invisible sugarcane that doesn't exist anymore, singing spirituals. Additionally, the convicts that took over the plantation also haunt this land. There is an insanely huge bird that sits on the perch of this destroyed plantation and refuses to let anyone enter into it, which is such a coincidence since hundreds of years ago, George said that a large bird was trying to peck at him in his sleep.
Okay, so the comments, because this is Lake Jackson, Texas, right? So in the comments, it says, in Texas, there's a myth about a big bird called La Lechuza. It's supposed to be half owl, half witch. Being from Texas, you've heard about it, but she has not seen it. The vessel that housed your body may not be able to rest if you don't have all the parts to rest inside the ground. I'd be looking for my head too. Now we have a haunted swap, y'all. Let's just get into it.
Y'all ever hear of the swamp that is haunted by an old hoodoo voodoo priestess who, when she passed away, said she was going to take the whole town with her and absolutely did? Just me? Get your popcorn. Hi, my name is Noah. I'm a spooky spiritualist, and on my page we talk about death, spiritual reparations, haunted people, places, and things, and how you can fuck around and find out. If you are not following me, follow me now. Before we get into the story, Julia Brown, also known as Aunt Julia, was born in New Orleans, Louisiana in 1845. She studied voodoo and hoodoo and became a priestess in both lanes. She decided that she wanted a new start, so she moved to a small developing town 25 miles outside New Orleans called Frenier. Frenier was a very, very small town, and it was a far cry from New Orleans, Louisiana. The only thing that it had that could be considered modern day technology was a railroad station that imported goods to and from New Orleans. While in Frenier, Julia became that girl. When I say that girl, she was the town's doctor, as they did not have one at this point. They had no electricity, only dirt roads, and that railroad station. A hut on the outskirts of town delivered every baby, wrapped every womb, broke every curse, and this town still decided that they was gonna fuck around and find out. Despite W people and black people alike coming to Julia for her midwifery skills, her healings, her root work, they all talked about her like a dog behind her back. They even played on this woman's name, some people calling her Julia White for all of her kindness and her good magic, and some calling her Julia Black. And we all know what that means, right? Julia also was a musician, and a lot of the times people will report seeing her on her porch singing songs, normally innocent songs. But one day, one of her seemingly innocent jingles turned a little weird and sinister. As she strummed her guitar, she sung the words, "One day I'm gonna die, and I'm gonna take the whole town with me." And a few days later, guess what Miss Julia Brown did? She died. Julia Brown passed away on September 29th, 1915. And everybody was shooketh. They were scared. Mourners all the way from New Orleans came to pay their respect, but it is said they came not because they respected this old woman. It's because they were afraid. They were in there literally sweating bullets, waiting for something, anything, and they didn't see anything happening, right? That is, until the day of her funeral. The seemingly normal, cloudless day turned dark. The skies turned black. And then a hurricane out of nowhere hit during her funeral
These damn hurricanes.
services. It was so bad that they literally just left the body there. They couldn't even get the body out. They didn't have enough time. The winds were over 45 miles per hour and made the water rise 13 feet. This was like bad, really, really bad for that time. Some locals were lucky enough to make it to the train station, just for the train station to collapse and kill all of them. The storm wiped the whole town of Frenier out. It claimed 300 lives, 60 of them being in that very small town. A lucky survivor recounted how he climbed up a cypress tree and put his hands over his ears so he could drown out the screaming below him, because people were drowning in the swamp. The few survivors that were left buried their dead in shallow graves, and they buried Julia. After they had found her body, they buried her away from the townspeople, claiming that she was responsible for this to begin with. The owners of this man-checked swamp literally do tours because Miss Julia never left. Because what people didn't know is that she owned most of the town of Frenier. Her husband, who passed away many, many years before her, got land from the federal government. So that whole little town really was hers, or at least a big chunk of it. They see her walking through the swamp. They hear her. It's haunted as hell out there.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, I get that, you know, people were coming to her for help, and then they were talking behind her back, but that's a reason to like unalive 300 people and like hurricane the entire town. It's got to be something else going on. It had to be something else going on, because that is too much.
They also report hearing her laugh in the distance. They do this at night, y'all. The tour company that owns this swamp now, the land that Miss Julia Brown owned, is cleaning up good because this is real. So if you're interested in fucking around finding out, you may book a haunted swamp tour of the Manchac Swamp, and you can go see Miss Julia Brown for yourself.
I'm good. I'm good. Miss Julia Brown, peace and love and light to you and your services you have done on this planet. Now let's go over another lake.
Okay, surviving Lake Lanier. It was 1997. I went to the Brunswick Dark Course Center in January, so it would have been June, July, when they took us on a field trip to Lake Lanier, like a field day. It was like
they was taking y'all on field trips to Lake Let's just continue.
a whole day thing, and I had a friend of mine who asked me if I would go out on the water or float with her. Now, mind you, she's from Tennessee. I'm from Florida. I'm from the beach, okay? So I told her, yeah, I would go out there with her and Sammy Dredd. But he had to assure me that he could swim, which he did. She couldn't swim either. But we both did go out there trusting that if something happened, that he had us, okay? So we go out on the float. We having a good time, you know. We out there sneaking and burning one. We having a great time. And then all of a sudden, this dude that me and Twin, we call him the Demon. Because every time we smoked with him, which was maybe 2 times for this particular day, he started looking like a demon after we smoked. So we started calling him Demon. So he came out there and we was like, you know, don't play because we can't swim. So he was like, you know, okay, whatever. Went under the water as if he was about to swim away. Went underneath the float and came under the float and knocked both of us off the float. Now, this is where it gets weird. Not weird, but this is where it really goes down. Okay, so I go underneath the water. And I can't tell you exactly what my thoughts were as I was falling off of the float into the water. But the moment my head went under the water, there was not a feeling of or a thought of, oh my God, I'm drowning. It was like instantly, wow, it's trees down here. It is freaking trees under here. And then I heard a voice. Plain as day. It sounded just like me. And it said, Chastity, you're under the water. And I said to myself, of course not out of my mouth because I was under the water, not like this, Lord. In that moment, I heard instructions, which was to take my hands, do them like this, and do the action of maybe of flying. So I did that with both of my hands, and I out of the water. When I came out of the water, I yelled while looking around, my feet won't touch the ground. And whoosh. Whew, excuse me, y'all. Back under the water. Again, as soon as I got back under the water, man, I'm telling you, there was not a thought of fear. It was not a thought of, oh my God, I'm drowning. It was, wow, there really is trees under here. And then in that moment, I can't tell you, all I can tell you is somebody picked me up out the water and walked me to the shore. All the movies, since 97 to now, every movie that I've seen when somebody is drowning, the person that's saving them grabs them around, this area or something like that, and they swim with them to a safe place. That's not what happened. Nobody swam with me nowhere. Somebody, a black man, picked me up, carried me out of the water, and set me on the shore. I don't owe you a lot because I don't know you. I've only shared my story with a couple people. And that's my story. And it's the truth. I'm here. And I pray that this video comes across twin. This chat girl is me from Job Code, your bestie. I pray to God that it come across Sammy Dredd because he was out there. Because he saved twin, just in case y'all wonder what happened to twin. He saved twin. He was busy with twin. I can't tell you exactly what happened because I was in the moments that I just described to you. But I know that twin was okay because twin was with him. You know what I'm saying? So I wish, I pray, I hope, whichever word makes you feel more comfortable, I manifest, whatever word makes you feel more comfortable, that they see this and they can testify to what I'm saying. Nobody swam me out of the water. A black man carried me to the shore and set me on the shore. And in that moment, I'm the reason why we had to stop the field trip. Because all the fellas that was around, when I saw Demon, I said, that's him, he tried to drown me. Yeah. And they all got on his ass, his behind, his buttocks. Yeah. So we had to pack up and we had to go back. That was because of me. Anybody that was at Lake Lanier in 1997 that was in Brunswick, Child Court, that remember the rumble on the side of the lake, you ain't gonna remember me drowning because you weren't out there.
Somebody in the comments said July 4th, 1976, the same thing happened to me at the Lake Lanier Beach. He walked me out of 10 feet of water. Then he disappeared. I was 10 years old. So some of the spirits have been saving people in Lake Lanier.
Dubai is currently experiencing some of the worst flooding it's had in years after the government's been experimenting with cloud seeding to create artificial rain, which, as you can tell, has gotten out of hand.
Why do floods happen? To do cleansing. Because Dubai has been built on slave labor. It's a whole lot of slavery that's happened over there, a whole lot of people who have been tortured, and a whole lot of trauma over there. There has been a lot of messed up stuff that's been happening over there, especially with men who have been terrorizing women. So you know all them tall buildings that everything looks nice and bright. This is the labor camps of the people who built those. Basically, they're squat shelters that immigrant laborers lived in while they built their projects. They are disgusting and inhumane. Then it says the laborers often had their passports removed and were lied to by the shark companies that promised them huge salaries when they advertised the jobs in places like India and Bangladesh. A bit similar to the stories of many migrants who were ripped off by sharks promising them a safe immigration to the UK and in the Syria crisis. Water has the ability to clean you physically and spiritually. So them experimenting, trying to play with nature and all of the stuff that's going on over there, this was just an opportunity for our mama spirits to come here and wash and cleanse the negative energy there.
And while some people in Dubai have been enjoying the rain, for most people the flood and storm have gotten so intense that it's starting to break through the roof of most buildings, leaving massive amounts of people stranded in the roadway. And for those that are trying to get away, a lot of them are flooding their engines, leaving their cars stuck and broken in the middle of the road. Unless you've got a Tesla, then apparently that thing is a submarine. And it's gotten so bad that in the last 12 hours, Dubai's gotten more rain than they typically get in an entire year. Government officials in Dubai have told people to stay home and stay safe, but as you can tell, Dubai's infrastructure was just not built for this amount of rain. And sadly, it seems like the worst is yet to come, with a second storm coming and adding to the current one. This is today at 3 p.m. It should be bright outside, but as you can tell, the cloud cover is so thick that it seems like it's night. Now, how much of this is cloud seeding versus natural Mother Nature just taking its course? We don't know exactly, but I think it goes to show that you just do not want to mess with Mother Nature, because if you do, things can get out of hand very fast. But that's my opinion.
Dubai government is basically saying they don't think that it's caused from cloud seeding. And the meteorologists are saying, move. And the meteorologists there, they are saying that this is a human-caused climate change. But let me know in the comments what y'all think spiritually is happening there. Okay, so the stories that I've heard so far, it seems like most of these people who have been saved by these water spirits, they definitely have some water family, some aquatic family, because, you know, them being saved and them being able to get out of the situation is real spiritually connected. Now, Julia Brown could have been a child of Yemen, y'all. This video that I'm about to show you is going to explain it. Let's get into it.
Let me tell y'all something. If you are a child of Yemoja, or if you work with a water deity, a lot of times they will flood the house of your enemy, or your enemy will be revealed through water accidents in their homes, like random pipes bursting. Just pay attention to that, because especially when it comes to or Asha Yemoja, she will flood a bitch house. She will break that bitch pipes, toilet just leaking for no fucking reason.
This is honest truth right here. One time I was at my ex house and, you know, we were working things out. We have already been through many of rough patches and I mean many of crazy events. And I was confused as to why my spirit guides led me to even mess with him again. But now I see as to why, because there were things that he was supposed to tell me so that I can be aware of how powerful I am as well. He begins to tell me that the bathroom in his bedroom, I guess, you know, had like a pipe burst or something. And he was sleeping. He was unaware that the pipe had burst or that his toilet was overflowing. So as his toilet was overflowing, the water rushed into his bedroom. And as he woke up, he was about to step his foot down into the water, but something made him look before he stepped his foot into the water. And he did have a few things plugged in his bedroom. So he could have been electrocuted, like really bad. So he had to do some kind of matrix or whatever to hop over the water and plug out that thing that would have caused him to shock his ass to death. You get what I'm saying? And when he was telling me the story, the look in his face and the look in his eyes was like he was trying to see if I had conjured up something to do this to him, because I have done court case work for him before and different, you know, I have done work for him before. So he thought that I sent him some stuff. Baby, I didn't send you anything. That was just my spirit guides letting you know, don't fuck around with me. Like, don't play with me, you know? So, I mean, if you're dealing with someone that's a daughter or son of Yemoja or Lokun, you might really want to be careful how you deal with, how you speak to, how you handle the daughters and sons of Yemoja or Olokun, because they're not playing with you. And daughters and sons of Yemoja or Olokun, you might want to be careful. If you know that your partner is harming you and doing, you know, no good to you, you let them go. Let them go. Else you might really have to see them go. Okay?
And with that, we're going to wrap the video up and get into another one. I hope that y'all have a good rest of y'all day. I love y'all and thank you for watching. Let's keep it going up.